Because it's a culture, and it's a life lived, and then trying to bring it out on stage. I think it's a communication between a singer, a guitarist, and a dancer. And you have other elements like percussion and all that, but those are the three kind of founding elements.
Monica Mota has the fire of flamenco in her soul.
I teach flamenco, I choreograph Spanish classical pieces.
Born in El Paso, Texas, Monica studied ballet and modern dance and attended the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque.
I started in psychology, I think it was, and about halfway through, the counselor said, you know, I don't think you've taken any psychology courses, but you've taken all the dance courses, and so maybe you should just major in dance and so you can get your degree.
One of Monica's requirements was to take a class in flamenco. At first, she didn't take well to it.
It was probably one of the hardest classes I had ever taken. I had a completely different style. The teacher was always yelling at me, and I wasn't used to that. I loved that teacher. I mean, he was on me all the time and trying to get me to go from this light, airy aesthetic to a grounded, more earthy feel that I was fighting him the whole time, and it was fun, but it was hard.
Monica was now hooked on flamenco. She began performing in Denver, Seattle, and Portland. Eventually, she moved to Spokane with her husband and began following her muse to bring flamenco to her new home.
I teach ballet and I teach modern. I also teach flamenco. I teach those three. But flamenco is where I still am professionally growing and training. A lot of time when people ask me what I did and I said I'm a flamenco dancer, oh, they assumed I salsa danced. And I realized I had to show them what this was.
Monica created a performing group called Quiero Flamenco so she could feature guest artists from other parts of the U.S. and Canada and develop local talent.
Because flamenco is that marriage of musician, dancer, but it's also a marriage of experience, and you can't convey that without having that wisdom and age. There's very few dancers at the age of 12 that can do anything like that, but when you're 70 and you've lived a life, a full life, and you come on stage, that's when you're like, oh, okay, now I understand what flamenco is. And not until you see those things that you understand what it is.
There you go, there you go.
I can teach young kids technique and I can teach them dance moves, and they are amazing. I have 4 to 5 of the most beautiful dancers. I won't be able to give them life experience, and they won't be able to do that until they're older. But hopefully they'll have the technique and the training to one day be that amazing. In my 20s, I used to take class, and I was okay. Technically, I could do stuff, and I got pregnant with my son and had my son and went back to class after that, and everyone in class kept saying, something's different about you. And they're like, I can't stop watching you. And I didn't know what it was other than I had a child and I had something else going on in my life that didn't revolve around me. It was around somebody else. Flamenco is actually more like to jazz than just a dance, and it's an improv art form. And with all art forms, any art form that you ever study, you have these cultural norms and bases, and then the creativity comes from disrupting those rules and orders. And so the problem and the hard thing about flamenco is learning those rules. Not very many people know them because it's a cultural art form.
Quiero Flamenco's first show was in 2017, and it featured the basic elements of flamenco. Since then, Monica's shows have grown to include other art forms, like Celtic music.
We're adding some stuff to it to just, actually, to try to incorporate the Spokane art scene, because you have some amazing musicians and dancers here, and I'm trying to mix them and also educate at the same time. But that's the goal, is to create something that we can do here. That's why it's so fun and so challenging. I was doing this for 15 to 20 years before I got up and said, okay, I could do this, and still scares me every time. That's what happens. You fall in love with it, and then you can't stop. The amazing thing about flamenco is that you will never, ever learn everything, and that's the beauty of it.